I'm Rita Cook. I'm sitting here with Lynn Baxley. Lynn, how are you? How are you
Doing great,
today?
thank you.
Good. So we are going to be talking about an article that ran this week in the paper about the dogs that are roaming free. I know that you spent at least $2,000 or $3,000 within the last week. Is it just trying to collect the dogs that the animal control officer that supposedly started yesterday was supposed to be taking care of? Let's talk about that.
Well, actually, that number probably comes from more of a month of collecting them, feeding them, getting them medical attention, and things like that.
Okay, so yesterday, what were you doing on the highway?
Oh, yesterday, on the way to work, I was on 664, which is major thoroughfare through Ferris, and came across two small chocolate-looking dogs, and pretty close to the one of the churches, and called Ferris, and they took my information, which they should. It was great. And I waited because the dogs were going in and out of traffic, which could cause an accident like caused one last week, and we'll talk more about that.
Okay.
But that was on my mind, not just for the animals, but the safety of the people driving by.
Okay.
So they took my information. I was told that we have an animal control officer. Yesterday was the animal control officer's first day, so I'm actually looking forward to meeting them and seeing actually meeting them because I'm still, I think, on the animal advisory board. So I waited and I waited, and as I'm running out of treats to keep them entertained,
right.
About 40-ish minutes later, I called back and said, hey, I'm still out here. What's the ETA on the animal control officer? And that's when I was told that they didn't have one, or at least the dispatcher didn't think
They
they
didn't
had
have one, and they were supposed to start yesterday.
Right,
They don't
right.
have it. Okay.
Or at least the dispatcher said they didn't have one. Later contacted law enforcement, and they said they were unaware they had one either. So a little bit of disconnect between, I guess, the public works or city manager and the
we're
police
talking about the
department.
city of Ferris. Let's let people know exactly we're
yes.
talking about the city of Ferris. Okay.
Yes, I'm sorry.
All right. That's okay.
And so anyway, so about 40 minutes into it, I called back and was told that they don't have one. And but they said Public Works handles it, and Scott Metcalf has been made aware. I didn't know what made aware means. I mean, everybody driving by is aware.
Yeah, that there's a
But
problem.
the difference is Scott Metcalf is the head of Public Works, and if there's no ACO, then him or his employees are responsible to be out there. So that was a little concerning. So I waited another 25 minutes thinking that, well, since he's aware, they're going to come, and they didn't come. So I actually had a call, an emergency call from the other side of Ferris with 4 dogs that had been dumped out, and so I realized that, well, since it's outside the city of Ferris barely, maybe I can get some help from Ellis County Animal Control, since I wasn't getting any help from Ferris. So I went ahead and had to leave, and it broke my heart. One of them had been hit already or limping.
Oh, wow.
And so, drove by today, and at least there was no accidents and no dead dogs. So
Okay.
hopefully that ended up okay.
But let's talk about something. I know we want to talk about the article because a lot of it was sort of a falsification, apparently. But when we talk about dead dogs, there was a dead dog. There was a picture of a dead dog that had been wrapped up in a black trash bag, and I guess just thrown in the trash at the animal shelter here in Ferris. And of course, it's always someone else's fault whenever you are, blaming other people when you're not doing your job properly.
And also, let me interrupt you real quick. I'm going to add one more last thing. When I called Ferris 911, not everybody can probably say this, but I'm actually on the board of advisory for the animal shelter. So when I can't get a city employee to come out and do that, what does everybody else think?
Right.
I just want to get that out there. If I can't get anybody to come out, pretty much I don't think anybody should expect it.
Right.
I'm sorry, let's go back to, you were talking about the dead dog and the trash.
It's the protocol's off, if nothing else, correct?
Right, and I was, and I don't, look up in them, look every day. I don't go to the shelter. I don't, this was reported to me.
Right.
Because people know who I am, or starting to, and so I got a phone call. So I drove by, checked it out, and yes, there was a dead dog in a trash bag in the dumpster outside the animal shelter. And of course, the first thing that come to mind is, how did it die? Did it die right there? Did somebody dump it? How to get there?
Right.
The witness that told me said that they were advised that a new employee, picked it up on the side of the road, didn't know what to do with it, so they brought it back and put it in the dumpster. Now, I don't know if that's the only dumpster in town that they have. I don't know if the new employee said, well, since it's a dead dog, I'll take it to the animal shelter's dumpster, but there's plenty of dumpsters in town, so it's just ironic that it happened to be in that dumpster. Mm-hmm. You know, when you combine that with all the issues that have been in the news lately about the neglect and the oversight and the on and on, you know, it just still looks suspicious, especially when there's a very large dump right down the street that I've been told that is the protocol, that they take them directly to the dump. But
so that's kind of odd, and nobody answered the question about what that was all about. But you know, there was a dead dog, and it's just inappropriate. So let's talk about the article, because I know that in December you met with Scott Metcalf, the Public Works Director, who's in charge of the animal control shelter. You met with the mayor about the food, the rat infestation. Okay, that happens. But then there were toys that were really nice that were thrown in the trash. They said that they weren't, but you had them in your truck. So that's
right.
The first problem. The second problem is they also told you that there were no citations that had been written at all, and now we found out there were 4, but we don't even really know who wrote those since the animal control officer was gone. So it's just a big mess. So what do you have to say in retaliation? Because I know that they said things that were sort of against what you had mentioned, and it's unnerving that nobody really cares about the bottom line here, except for it seems like you and the animals that are being, you know, hurt by all this.
Well, and there's a lot more people than just myself. I guess, you know, I'm a little more vocal. People contact me so I can be vocal on their behalf. But as I said in the meeting, and if you're probably above the age of 15, you know this for a fact, is when you get caught telling something that is not exactly true, some might call it a lie, but we're not going to go there. It makes you wonder what other things that they have just told you that are not true. So when I pointed out, after I was told by Bill Jordan that after looking at the newspaper article that he wanted to make it very specific to me that these toys in this picture were not thrown away. Well, I let him go, and of course that's where the other comments that are questionable came into. Then I came back around and said, you know, I know that's not true because these toys in this picture are in my truck in a box outside, and I can go get them for you.
Right.
They didn't respond to that comment. They didn't ask to see them at that time. So I guess if they don't see them, then they can use the term unprovable.
Right.
If that was the word exactly, I'm assuming that was the right word. I'm not going to take offense to that because it's hard to get upset at somebody when you have such low expectation of them already.
Right.
You see, because when you look at the shelter that they should have taken care of, when you look at the animals that they should take care of, when you look at they don't have an ACO, which they should hire, you know, when they let the food spoil by rat infestation, which all that didn't happen overnight.
Right.
You know, if you've had rats, you know that it just doesn't get that bad overnight.
Right.
When you let a pallet and a half of cat food expire past its best use by date, when you know a large number of people in the city of Ferris are low income and could benefit from that free food, that have to go out and spend their own money to feed their cats, and you let that expire, what does that say to the citizens of Ferris? Basically it says, I don't care. You know, and that food was donated to them to help out the animals in Ferris.
Right.
All these things that they're saying, we work with animal shelters, go ask any animal shelter, go ask any rescue group, would you like us to give you free food, and see if they turn it down.
Right.
One phone call would have gotten that, and there's plenty of people that would have taken that cat food. I filled up a box. I'm still using the cat food to feed the cats and the dogs that we have stray. Right. So I'm about out of it, but, oh, and by the way, and this is for you, I've got the box of toys. Come see them.
We're Rita Cook and Lynn Baxley with Ellis County TV.